My name is Mickey McKinney. I'm a brother of Willie McKinney, who was murdered on Bloody Sunday. I was at the march, and I think I was probably lucky enough. I had just moved off just before the Paris come on. I was standing at the entrance of Glenfada Park at 4 o'clock when they fired the gas. And I crossed over and I met my girlfriend then, who's now my wife. Because of the effects of the gas, she suggested to me, we'll make your way to your aunt's house, who lived in the Wales, which is just beyond Freeberry Corner. And we got on there. I think maybe just as we got on this in Collins Wales, the whole thing went mad. People were running, screaming. We got into the house. You're only talking about a wee one bedroom here, and there must have been 20 people in it. And I hear people saying there, within minutes, there's 6 dead at the barricade.
Last year, the people of Derry marked the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday massacre. The brutal attack by the British Army on unarmed protesters left 14 people dead and has been a source of anger and grief in the city for over half a century. Now, for the first time, following a 30-year campaign by the victims' families, one of the soldiers involved in the killings is facing trial for the murders of 2 young men and the attempted murders of 3 more. I went to Derry recently to meet those families, to visit the Museum of Free Derry, and to see for myself the streets where the killing happened. In this episode, I'm talking to Mickey McKinney, whose brother Willie was shot dead on that day in January 1972. Mickey has been a leader of the family's campaign for justice since 1992, and he spoke to me about the terrible loss of his eldest brother, the efforts that have been made to get justice, and the challenging prospect of Soldier F's murder trial. I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World. So, Willie was he wanted to be a photographer.
He had an interest in photography. He was a typesetter in the journal office. Willie was a big John Hume man. Me and my younger brother were something else back then. He never took part in a riot. And he never took part in a riot, never threw a stone in his life. Me and the other boy did. Willie was a very inoffensive. There was no violence or there was nothing of that in our Willie. Just a lovely person.
Did he have his camera?
He had a Sony Super 8 camera with him. He was at McGilligan the week before. Him and Joe, my younger brother, were at McGilligan the week before, and they witnessed what he recorded. In fact, I think they used up his footage at the inquiry. I have memories of both Willie and Joe and myself. We would have landed in the house at lunchtime. We were all working around it would have been the talk bag stuff, going out then. And I have vivid memories of the reports coming from Stormont, Brian Faulkner. This march on Sunday will not be tolerated. I remember that. And there was a lot of unease coming up to that day, because we knew the message was being sent out. Keep in mind, marches and parades were all banned at that time. They weren't allowed. And as best I remember, the march on Bloody Sunday was the only one of that size ever to happen within a no-go area during that time. The Bloody Sunday march was the biggest ever. There was never another march inside the no-go area like that there. Such was the feeling against internment. There was a whole build-up, from 6 to 8, and because everything was going on, because the way NASAs were being treated. But internment was the last straw. The last time I saw Willie that day, we were coming down Southway, and I was along with my friends and all. Our Willie there's trees at the bottom of Southway. Willie was up there. His footage proves what I seen because the march, he films the march coming down that part of Southway. There's another part that shows you the march going up Weston Street. The last piece is the gas coming on. Wherever he was or whatever happened, the cameras put away in.
How did you hear that your brother was one of the victims?
After the shooting, he called my wife Grady. We made our way up, and there was evening mass then, on Sunday. We made our way up to her house. She lived in Cragen Heights. We're from Westway, about a mile apart. The day before, there was two people out of our square in Westway shot that Saturday. Peter Robson, Peter McLaughlin. We went up to Grady's house. We got our tea. We went to mass. There was a fellow, Pat Clark, coming out behind me, coming out of the chapel after mass. It was Pat Clark that told my father and told the family about Willie. He said, but I hadn't got the heart to come and say it. He said, I don't know if you knew or not. That was after mass. When we come out of mass, I said, they told Grady, I need to get home. They let my mother and father know that I'm okay. When we were approaching the house, I saw Father McLaughlin's car, one of the priests, the Willie Cragen Chapel. I said, there must be something wrong with Peter McLaughlin and Peter Robson, they're Father McLaughlin's car. And as we went into our house, my father met me, he says, Willie's dead. I dropped him in the ear, just, My mother was sitting in the sitting room and butts everybody around her. The following morning, my father awakened me. I'm crying. I never heard anyone cry as sore ever in my life. The older brother George was trying to console him,
Willie was the eldest.
Willie was the eldest, of 11. It just wrecked him,
You were all in shock and you were trying to prepare the funerals and all the other funerals in the city. And did it take you some weeks really to realise what they were saying, or did you know immediately about the lies that were coming out?
Everybody was in shock. We were all in shock. I have a vague memory of listening to a report on the news that night. And I think it was going something like, British Army engaging the combat with IRA. But it's what they did.
How have you managed to keep up your spirits and your fight over the years?
What they did was wrong and they just can't get away with it. Very simple, There was a number of us in the campaign who were sort of hard-nosed on it, there was no shifting us, Jerry and John and myself, and who practically, led the thing. And it would have been so wrong they let them away with it. It was wrong, it shouldn't have happened.
But it's been so many years, and did you ever kind of feel that you were losing the fight? In yourself, I mean.
I was a step forward and 2 steps back. When we started the campaign, it was going to the snail's piss. We thought, we're not getting anywhere here. And sometimes something would have happened, and it went very, very slow. But the determination was there among us. It was there, and we just kept going and going and going. We met every Tuesday night up in West End Park for nearly 7 years.
From when?
92. Campaign started in 92. The peace process was starting to fly at this time. Hume was very hard to pin down. I suggested we got after Hume. I thought, right, there was a postcard campaign. We were out getting everybody to sign it, post them off to Downing Street. John Major was sitting there. Postcards were flying off. I remember I stole an idea from the police commander of the Bog and the Roswell Flats and Andy St. Columns, Wales, where my aunt lived. And they put in the windows at 3 o'clock in the morning. Within a month, relatives from the Roswell Street Flats and the St. Columns, Wales, went to London. I took that idea. I said, right, let us go to London. Let's take it to their front door. But the only way we could do that was through Hume. We needed Hume to get into London. He got us into Downing Street, and he got us in front of so many MPs and at Westminster. That was a big PR stunt for us.
And what year was that?
I would guess maybe around 94.
So would you kind of have, you'd have something big would happen and then it would all die away again, And you'd have to come up with some other idea.
That's the way it happened.
Yeah.
But us getting them to Downing Street, us being seen in Downing Street, I believe, was sending a firm message out. These people are serious.
Patricia went over and got at the Kew Gardens and got the HO219 file. There were documents lodged with the Public Records Office at the conclusion of the Widgery inquiry, and many of these documents were never disclosed to the lawyers representing the families in '72. So, what we did was we prepared an analysis of what could have been done had there been fair disclosure at the time. It was a tribunal inquiry whereby there was a cosy fireside chat, and we unearthed the minutes of the meeting between Edward Heath, Lord Widgery, and Lord Carrington, in which Heath reminded Widgery that the Northern Ireland were not just fighting a military war, we're fighting a propaganda war. And Patricia found this minute. There was explosive stuff.
Right.
And it told a story that this wasn't just a substantively corrupt inquiry that was happening, because it was a matter of urgent public importance. There was an outcry. The difference was with Bloody Sunday, they did it in front of the media. The media were there. There was hundreds of photos, hundreds upon hundreds of photos.
And they never interviewed them, the photographers?
Very few of them. Very, very few. They almost had to push their way in to get interviewed. But Fulvio Grimaldi was able to be smuggled out of Derry that night with his films by Martin McGuinness. As it turned out, many years later, Martin got him over the border and got him to Dublin, himself and Susan North. And Fulvio's photos, along with another French photojournalist called Gilles Perez. So the photographs were coming out, and all these victims, none of them were armed. And they couldn't have shot more innocent people in Derry. I mean, there's plenty of people they could have shot, and people would have went, well, maybe,
And do you think without those photographs?
I think that's the trouble at that's the trouble at the Ballymurphy families had. Yeah. They had no photos.
Yeah.
The difference with Bloody Sunday, what made it unique was it was done in front of the media. And if they hadn't had the media to go back, because the media gave lie to the British Army's account. And we had it so through the material that Patricia uncovered when she came over the queue, and she also obtained the military statements that were made by the Paras on the night of Bloody Sunday and the next day and then the next day. And none of these statements were ever disclosed to the family, to the lawyers for the families. All they got were statements taken weeks later by the Treasury Solicitors Department. We felt that it won't have the same weight if it's just a report from Madden and Finucane or from Seamus Tracy or from our team. So what we did was, Patricia went down on Boxing Day, I think it was 1995, and she went down to Galway, and she briefed a legal professor in Galway called Dermot Walsh. And she went down and she spent the entire Boxing Day briefing him, and he agreed to prepare an analysis of what could have been done if there had been a fair show, on an even playing field. But with all these things, and with the Walsh report, we were then able to go down, meet the Taoiseach, and Eamon O'Crieve and the Department of Foreign Affairs came on board then in a very big way, because they could see that we would get stuff ourselves, and they could see the blatant unfairness. And the Irish government then produced a report which was served on the British government at Downing Street, and it was the Irish government's assessment of the new material.
That was just pushing them just for an oral inquiry.
And at that stage, it was becoming explosive stuff, and it was gathering a great pace.
Oh, absolutely.
That got us along to coming up to about 98.
Right.
In January 98, and that's when there was only about 3 months left of negotiations, you see, for the Good Friday Agreement. Tony Blair was in place, and Martin McGuinness impressed very, very heavily on, like, you need to sort out Bloody Sunday. Yeah. You need to sort out Bloody Sunday. And we were all up in Craigan.
We went over and we met Mulholland.
Yes, she was very good.
That was, in fact, we flew out of Dublin going over. We met Mulholland, and we were letting her, she knew what we were after. We were after an international inquiry.
The Irish government was solidly behind it by that stage.
I talk about a time we were up and down the Dublin squeezing the Emmons. And they were getting on board, definitely. Yeah. Within a month, New Labour were in. If that hadn't happened, we probably might not have got an inquiry. We went over and we met Mo. John Kelly, we're only a small group. John was chair, I was vice chair, you know. But the contact was made with John. I can't mind who it was. Somebody contacted John and says, right, he's getting something. He's not getting what he's want. But what you're getting, you should be happy with. You're getting a Brit and 2 Commonwealth judges. And there was stuff going on. We was like, well, that's not what we want. What are we going to do with it? One thing or another. And I think the feeling was, if this is all we're getting, we still have to run with it. It's better than nothing. So we run with it. And how long have we run? 5 years?
Well, of oral evidence, evidence gathering and oral evidence, it went for 5 years.
It was about 7 years to get the report out.
It took 12. 12 and a half, actually.
And then there was a scandal over the amount of money that it cost.
Yes, but it did cost a lot of money. But you have to remember, the British Army took a judicial review, saying that that their soldiers were under such that. Now they used to giving evidence day and daily at the time. The other soldiers in trials here, in Diplock trials, would be given evidence day and daily, and they brought a judicial review in London, challenging. Firstly, they had a successful challenge against the inquiry in relation to anonymity.
There's 5 of them, no?
Yeah.
And Savile never won one of them?
Yeah, Savile never won one judicial review taken in London by the former soldiers, put it that way. Firstly, anonymity. That Savile ruled they should give evidence in their own names and with their own identities. That was held to be unreasonable and unlawful. Then the next big challenge came because Savile said that all hearings should be, and naturally in Derry. I mean, they weren't in Derry the first time; they were in Crow Lane, and that was very deliberate, and that was to cause a massive chill factor to prevent local eyewitnesses from coming forward, because we're going into a very hostile loyalist area. Right. They go 30 miles away. They go down, and they were met with mobs, and etc. And barely protected. It was very traumatic for people already traumatized to go down and do it. So it was a very deliberate thing. But Savile said, look, it's happened here. Every other inquiry takes place in the place where it occurred. That should happen here. Again, that was ruled to be unreasonable and unlawful, challenged successfully by way of judicial review, again in the London High Court. Now, those 2 decisions ended up costing the inquiry, or costing the public person an absolute fortune, because they had to run effectively 2 inquiries that were going in tandem. Because you see, all the time that we were in England, well, there was the venue, and firstly where it had to take place, but everything was still being back to Derry, and all the lawyers and the teams and the families. I mean, over 100 of you flying every week over to London, every week,
for 2.5
every single
years.
week for 2 years.
For 2 years.
And do you see the cost of that? Anonymising all those documents, and doing it right. Now it was always going to be an expensive affair, but that really sent the cost spiralling out of control, and it's often slagged, it's often criticised for what it cost, but it's very rarely understood what the causes of that. And those were those were fairly significant factors.
And what was it like when you eventually got that report in 2010?
It was good.
It was a momentous day.
Oh, absolutely. It was brilliant. It was, for David Cameron to come out, maybe an hour or more, or whatever, dedicated to Bloody Sunday, for him to say what he said, unjustified and unjustifiable. I didn't need him to tell me that. Nobody in this town needed it. We didn't need the Brits to tell us that. They needed it. But for him to do it, we forced him into it.
And did that not feel like a win and that it wasn't the end.
No, it was never going to be the end. No. The postcard campaign was, we had 3 demands on it. The repudiation of witchery, the declaration of innocence, and the prosecution of them responsible.
That was the third bit.
That day, 2 of the 3 demands had been won.
No, we were going all right.
You had 2 people winged at 5-4. And it's commonly believed that the reason why those 2 people were shot were to draw the IRA down, to hit back, and to engage them in a firefight and to wipe them out, with overwhelming firepower. But they didn't come down. There was a shot fired in return at them from an official IRA gunman, and he almost got badly hurt in a fist fight with provisionals who tried to take the weapon off him. There was, there was that. And then when they came in at 4:10, by 4:30, everybody was dead. The 3 bodies were in the back of the pig, and they were moving back out, with about 50 people arrested, who went through a horrendous time of it just across the way there in Fort George that night. Because after they were finished shooting people there, they came down and started physically torturing those people who were arrested, and it's often forgotten, like the horrific time of it that those people
spitting in prisoners' mouths.
Soldier F went out of control that night.
Alsatian dogs, putting Alsatian dogs on them.
He attacked in particular a Catholic priest called Father Terence O'Keefe, who was the Dean of Humanities.
That just happened 100 yards down there. Just down there, Fort George.
And that's when that's where we got his name.
Right.
That's where we got his name that night.
Because how he behaved, basically.
Because he had identified himself, and Father O'Keefe wrote a letter, and his name was actually published in the Irish press, naming him way back, and the press reports are there to this day. But we knew his name before they had left Glenfarra Park, because his best friend, Soldier G, came in after shooting the 2 people in Abbey Park and said, "I got another one." They'd actually got 2, but there was a shoot through. And we said, well P.S., I haven't even been in touch. We better write to the Chief Constable. So we wrote him this stinger of a letter, and then we made submissions in relation to each and every client that we had. And said, "What are you going to do about this one? So he got hit by 27 letters." And he says,
Murder investigations.
Murder investigations, better start here.
Yeah.
And so they drafted an ex-police, who were off with their patent retirement money, and they came back in to investigate this with very, very bad misgivings about this because of where they had come from. So we're going to have to stay on this like a hawk. The next thing was, sorry, we're going to have to shelve the Bloody Sunday murder investigation because we don't have the money. So we did what we do best. We took another judicial review about the fate.
So what year are you at there?
We're at about 2015.
15.
About 2015, because remember we went over to Maydown and had a very hot and heavy meeting with myself, yourself, Fergal, Peter,
and
John, and the 5 of us with senior police, and they came out with their ears dinging and threats of going to court, and they looked at us, and we were in court by Tuesday, and the court's held for us. It's a complete breach of Article 2 of the Convention, not to get
so the court's basically told them
every time we had to go back to the court.
Yeah.
Every time we had to go back to the court. And then, so the money was found. And then the next thing, they arrest Soldier G. He's the first one to be arrested. And they
started bringing them over again, didn't
so
they?
They then started interviewing them all voluntary attendances for murder. The most important part about the committal proceedings has been the hearsay applications, which were brought by the PPS, which put Soldier F basically inside the kill zone of Glenfarra Park, armed with his SLR, firing it at civilians. The civilian evidence really takes care of itself. You know, the civilian evidence is all held up. But it's the hearsay evidence. If those applications had been unsuccessful, the case would have been killed dead Friday week ago. We went to court. The judge held in favour of the PPS. I think I was asked, well, I mean, what are your views as to the day? I said, well, it's a very bad day for Soldier F. You know, because one thing's clear now, that this judge is going to return him for trial, and he's going to then be in the Crown Court, and he'd be tried before a diplock judge in a diplock court sitting without a jury, and those applications will have to be heard for real, as it were, in the Crown Court. And if hearsay evidence is accepted, then I mean, Soldier F's in a world of trouble. He's currently charged with the murder of Willie, the murder of Jim Ray, the attempted murders of Patsy O'Donnell, Joe Friel, and Joe Mahan. And that's only a fraction of the people he shot that day. You know, he's only standing trial for a fraction of what he did. And then he went down and started torturing people. And I mean torturing. You know, making them stand in front of gas heaters until they collapsed, beating a priest very badly. And then a number of days later, he's involved in another incident in West Belfast where they pick up two Catholic men, take them away in pigs, drop them in the Shankill Road, identify them as Catholics. The men survive, and very, very few people did. And those men were paid heavy damages, and we were able to cross-examine F about the kidnapping that occurred within a couple of days of the two Catholics in Belfast. You know, everyone thought he was a psychopath out of control. He's very, very well liked. He was a very popular soldier, and you can see the campaign that's behind him. You know, to this day, he's a very popular soldier throughout, and he's a very well-known soldier throughout the British Army, and he has received a backing that no other soldier who's faced charges here has ever had, like a personal backing. That's very, very obvious. Even done to go to the highest level a non-commissioned officer can rise to, the warrant officer classes high. That's a ceiling he went to within the army. But he's a very significant soldier.
Will you go to court every day?
I never miss it. I'm going to go to Belfast, I'll be on, and hopefully the rest of them be up there too. No, you can't miss it. You know, it's such a got it here, you know. If he's going to be in Belfast, no matter where he is, if he's in court, I'm going to be here. He's going to see me.
Was Willie's camera ever found?
It's in the museum. You'll see it tomorrow in the museum.
And was there any photographs taken?
You'll see it tomorrow too, yeah.
Right. You've been listening to Crime World, a podcast from SundayWorld.com, produced by Ian Mullaney and edited by me, Nicola Tallant. Research assistant is Claude Amini. If you like this show and love true crime, leave us a review, or why not download the free SundayWorld.com app for lots more stories from Ireland and across the globe.